Hey everybody, and welcome to another midweek Bible study with the West Main Church of Christ. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. As always, we're going to start this video off with our fun thought of the week. Now, I don't know exactly what the weather looks like where you are, but here in northern Mississippi, it's just rained on and off all week long, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. So, for the fun thought of the week, I thought I would give you the 3 best rainy day indoor activities you can do, because after all, there are only so many mud puddles that you can splash around in before your parents finally just get fed up with it. So here are my top 3 indoor rainy day activities. Number 3, cook something. Whether that means making your favorite soup or some awesome made from scratch cookies, everybody can utilize cooking something when you're stuck inside all day long, and then you get to reap the benefits of eating whatever it is that you just make. So, shameless plug from a West Main family, we're doing a virtual potluck this week. Don't forget about that. I'll remind you again at the end of the video when we do some announcements, but there's my shameless plug. So, cooking something. It can be baking, cooking, anything that you can do just to spend some time with your family and to try something new. Number 2, watch a movie. There are always those favorite movies that just seem perfect for rainy days. And you could grab your favorite blanket, pick out a spot on the couch, and just sit and cuddle up and watch a really, really good movie. Maybe it's your all-time favorite that you watch over and over and over again, or maybe it's one that you really enjoy that you realize you just haven't seen in a while. Either way, watching a movie is a great way to spend some time during a rainy day. But my number 1 all-time favorite indoor rainy day activity, take a nap. And I don't know if this is just because I'm getting older, but there's something so satisfying about laying down, listening to the rain, and just dozing off to take a little nap. So there you go. Those are my top 3 rainy day activities. I hope that the sunshine comes out sooner rather than later, but in the meantime, you can always cook something, watch a movie, take a nap, or hey, just let me know what your favorite rainy day activity is, and maybe somebody will find that useful too. So, as everybody knows, as we get into this video, and I really appreciate you guys for tuning in and trying to get something out of a midweek Bible study with us. The weather prevented us from being able to be outside in person tonight, but we're going to continue to do this. So, over the last few weeks, we've seen more and more and more people be able to go back to their buildings, our building, for worship, right? And I want to take a few minutes to be sure that we're focused on the correct kind of goal, because for some reason, throughout this whole process, that's been what we considered our goal. Our goal, we would have accomplished everything we needed to accomplish if we could just be back in the building with each other. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to be back with one another. I've wanted to be back with everybody for a long time now. But that's not our goal. If we're going to truly fulfill the calling that Christ has for us, it requires the church leaving the building, not necessarily coming back to it. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to be sure that our focus is where it needs to be. So here we go. 2 things tonight, just 2 things that the church needs to do outside of the building. Number 1, we need to treat people. And somebody's scratching their head going, that's kind of weird. And flip open your Bibles, if you would, to Luke chapter 10. And in Luke chapter 10, there's a really popular story that's often referred to as the Good Samaritan. This is Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. And I'll let you read the whole thing if you want to. But at the end of this parable, Jesus is asked a question. And Jesus says, which of these, do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man that fell among the robbers? And the one said, the one who showed mercy to him. And Jesus said, get this, Jesus said, go and do likewise. Some say, go and do the same. And if you read that whole story through, you'll understand that the man he was referencing, the one who was a neighbor, was the one that showed mercy and compassion and did something and treated this person. One of my favorite movies of all time is called Patch Adams. It's a really, really amazing movie, but Patch Adams, in this movie, Robin Williams plays a medical student. And toward the end of this movie, Robin Williams has to stand before a medical board and is being accused of practicing medicine without a license. And during this interview or this trial or hearing, whatever you want to call it, he says these words. And they are so profound to me that I love them so much. He says, a doctor's mission should not be just to prevent death, but also to increase the quality of life. That's why if you treat a disease, you win, you lose. He says, if you treat a person, I guarantee, no matter what the outcome, you win. And that to me is so unbelievably amazing, because I think that sometimes we forget that the church is in the people business. We can't get caught up in thinking that just because we're working our way back to normal that we're done, because our mission hasn't changed. Our mission is still showing others the love of Christ and what He has to offer. And in a time where everyone wants to fight with each other or express an opinion or differentiate one group from another, how much different could it look if Christians would take that same mentality? What if a Christian's job wasn't just to prevent death to sin, but also to improve the quality of life by showing other people the way that Christ loves? You see, Christians are required to stand out. And again, it's not necessarily that difficult in a world that looks the way that it does right now. If we're happy, if we're helpful, if we're loving, if we act like Christ, people should understand and notice a difference about us. But at the end of the day, it's about treating people with respect, treating people with dignity, treating people with the love that Christ has for us. And we do that because we want people to understand and to want to know more about what that love is. So we need to treat people. Number two, we need to check our view. And this is, again, one of those things that you're like, what do you mean, Nathan? There's nothing wrong with acknowledging less than ideal situations. There's absolutely nothing wrong with looking at the world and not necessarily being happy about the state that it's in. Even Jesus did that. Jesus was not one to shy away from looking at something and understanding that that was not a fun situation. But what happens when our focus becomes so negative that we forget everything else that we have going on for us? You see, Jesus' view, Jesus' focus, Jesus' priorities were always on what God wanted. You see, I saw something on Facebook this week, and it was an older gentleman. I think he was 87, 90 years old, somewhere in that realm. And somebody had asked him, 2020 must have been especially difficult for you. And he responded, no, not really. He said, I learned a long time ago not to see the world through the printed headlines. I decided to see the world through the people that surround me. And how much of a difference could you make in somebody's life if you treated them the way that Christ would treat us, and we stopped looking at the world through the printed headlines and we started focusing on the good things that are going on right now? Are we getting so caught up in scrolling through our Facebook feed that we've forgotten where our focus is supposed to be? Because according to Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, Paul says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just or pure or lovely or commendable, he says, if there's any moral excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, he says, dwell or focus on these things. Now, I'm not going to lie. Of course, there's a lot going on that's in the world that we don't necessarily like. There's bad, there's turmoil. We've been thrown for such a loop here in 2020 that our stress and anxiety and pressure just continues to build. But there's so much good stuff in the world right now, too. There's so much good news that can be put out there. Are we only focusing on the negative? Is our driving force throughout this right now fear or faith? I'm not saying that you're scared if you refuse to go out. I'm not saying that it's wrong if you want to take those precautions. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is your focus on pure and just and holy and Christ, or is your focus on everything that could possibly be going wrong right now? Whatever your situation is, I just want to offer a friendly reminder that there is still work to be done. You haven't become exempt from being a Christian just because of the coronavirus. And I've said that before, I'll continue to say it. The mission of the church hasn't changed. The hope of the church hasn't changed. The goal of the church hasn't changed. I've said this before and I'll continue to say it again. The church is not on vacation just because COVID exists. We're not stopping progress in the sense of becoming closer to Christ, especially when we leave the building. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to me for just a few moments. As always, if you're part of my West Main family, I do have just a few announcements for you. First off, I mentioned it at the very beginning. This Saturday, we're having a West Main virtual potluck. I'll be sure to put something out on Facebook about it again. But this is an opportunity for us to show off what some have called the best cooks in the state. Okay, so make something, cook something, grill something, bake something. I don't care what you make. Just make something. Take a picture of you making or eating or waiting or just the final result of everything that's out there. Be sure to send that to me via text or email with a short recipe by Saturday, and then Saturday night or Sunday afternoon I'm going to post all of those so everybody's got access to them and we could try each other's recipes and really, really enjoy what the West Main culinary community has to offer, right? Remember to join us Sunday night, and if you want to, you can stick around for a Sing in the Park that we've got with our young people going on Sunday night. Want to be sure that we threw that out there. If you're watching this before 7 o'clock, remember that there is no singing tonight, Wednesday. There is no singing in class out behind the face because of the weather. If you're watching this after 7 o'clock, you've probably already figured that out. So, and lastly, as always, be sure to stay connected. I understand that there are some people that are back at the building, and I understand that there are some people that feel more comfortable being at home. And we're not judging that, we're not condemning that by any stretch, but we want to be sure that everybody is still being reached out to. So, stay connected with each other. Give a phone call, give a text, send a card, anything you can do to help make sure that we're not going to let people slip through the cracks just because we're working our way back to the way it was before. Doesn't mean that there isn't work to be done. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you in person next week, Lord willing, and I'm so excited to continue to move forward with you all. I love you, and have a great week.